Welcome learners. Today we are going to talk about Peter L. Berger's social construction of reality. I am Dr. Moutan Roy, Assistant Professor of Sociology, Haldia Government College, West Bengal, India. This talk tries to comprehensively analyze the theoretical framework of social construction of reality proposed by Peter L. Berger, which is one of his seminal work. Our primary goal is to carefully unravel its intricate threads, revealing how human beings collectively weave their social worlds. Our major objective would be to provide a deep, nuanced analysis of Berger's dialectical model. We'll break down the three-dimensional process: externalization, objectivation, and internalization, not just as abstract concepts, but as living, dynamic mechanisms through which societies create and maintain their shared understanding of reality. We aim to transcend traditional sociological approaches that often get stuck in rigid, one-dimensional interpretations, where structural functionalist theories might see society as a fixed machine and individualistic perspectives might focus solely on personal actions. Berger's approach offers a fluid, interactive understanding. Our exploration will demonstrate how social reality is neither completely predetermined nor entirely self-created, but a constant dynamic negotiation between individual, creativity, and collective structures of the society. We will critically analyze the theory of Berger, and we will try to investigate how social institutions such as media, education, religious organizations act as powerful sculptures of collective perception. By examining these mechanisms, we will reveal how dominant groups construct and maintain their interpretations of reality, making their particular worldview seem natural and questionable. Our scholarly critic will provide a balanced examination of Berger's model. We will aim to demonstrate how this theoretical framework has profoundly transformed interdisciplinary understanding of how social knowledge is formed, transmitted, created, recreated, and reproduced. The goal of this talk is to help the readers not just to understand the theory intellectually, but to see how it operates in the real life lived everyday experiences. By the end of our analysis, we hope to provide a rich, nuanced understanding of how human beings are both creators and created, continuously producing social worlds while simultaneously being shaped by them. Peter Berger's scholarly contributions to sociological understanding extend far beyond his groundwork in 1966, that is, the social construction of reality. The seminal text, co-authored with Thomas Lichtman, represents a transformative moment in sociological theory that fundamentally challenged existing paradigms of social understanding. At the core of their theoretical intervention was a profound reimagining of social reality as an ongoing dynamic process of human creation rather than a static, predetermined structure. Berger introduced a nuanced phenomenological approach that emphasized the dialectical relationship between individual consciousness and social institutions. They argued that society is both an objective reality, externally constraining individuals, and also a subjective reality, continuously getting constructed through human interactions and meaning-making processes. The theory of social construction articulates three dialectical moments, that is, externalization, where humans project the meanings onto the outside world; objectivation, where these meanings become institutionalized and appear as external, independent realities; And the last one is internalization, where individuals absorb these socially constructed meanings back into their subjective consciousness. This cyclical process demonstrates how social structures are not fixed entities but ongoing achievements of human agency and collective interpretation. Berger's work, including the invitation to sociology and the sacred canopy, further elaborated on this insight, exploring how social constructions operate in various domains such as religion, knowledge, and cultural institutions. His work provided a critical theoretical bridge between macro sociological perspectives and micro level interpretive approaches, demonstrating how large scale social structures emerge from and are continuously reproduced through everyday human interactions. Berger's intellectual contributions have been extended beyond theoretical innovation. He was a public intellectual who made complex sociological concepts accessible to broader audiences, bridging academic discourse and public understanding. His writings consistently challenged the readers to recognize the constructed nature of social realities, encouraging a more reflexive and critically engaged approach to understand social phenomena. The enduring success of his work lies in its fundamental reframing of the sociological imagination that shifted focus from deterministic models to a more dynamic, agency centered understanding of social life. Talking about the intellectual roots of social construction of reality, we need it is essential to understand the intellectual landscape of the mid 20th century sociology. Emerging from a phenomenological philosophy, particularly the works of Alfred Schutz, and drawing from symbolic interactionism, Berger developed a nuanced approach that transcended existing theoretical boundaries. His work represented a critical departure from both structural functionalism, which viewed social institutions as relatively static and deterministic, and purely individualistic interpretations of social life. Berger's groundbreaking theoretical contribution lay in his sophisticated understanding of the dialectical relationship between individual consciousness and social structures. He argued that social reality is not fixed external phenomena but a continuously negotiated and reconstructed process of human interaction. This perspective challenged the prevailing traditional sociological paradigms by emphasizing the dynamic, interpretative nature of social experiences. By integrating phenomenological insights with sociological analysis, Berger introduced the concept of social construction as a fundamental mechanism of human meaning making process. He proposed that individuals both create and are created by social institutions, highlighting a reciprocal relationship that previous theoretical frameworks of sociology have overlooked. This approach allowed for a more nuanced understanding of how social knowledge is produced, maintained, transformed through everyday human interactions. Berger work was particularly innovative in its exploration of how subjective experiences become objectified into seemingly permanent social structures, and conversely, how these structures are continuously reframed, reinterpreted, and reshaped by human agency. This theoretical framework provided a powerful lens for understanding social phenomena as complex, ongoing, dynamic process of meaning creation rather than static and predetermined. The concept of a social construction of reality is definitely then a dynamic one. The landscape of meaning, Berger's revolutionary approach challenges the conventional understanding of reality as a fixed objective one. Instead, he presents reality as a living, breathing entity continuously shaped and reshaped by human interactions, shared meanings, and collective interpretations. At the heart of this perspective lies the understanding that our perception of the world is not neutral, passive reception of objective truths, but an active process of meaning making. Every social interaction becomes a moment of creation where individuals negotiate and construct shared understandings. Think of it like a continuous conversation where we collectively decide what is real and what matters, and how we should interpret our experiences. Con- Considering institutional play a crucial role in solidifying these constructed relations and realities. When patterns of interaction become repetitive and predictable, they gradually transform into seemingly objective structures. Educational system, legal frameworks, and media platforms become powerful mechanisms for reproducing and legitimizing specific interpretations of reality. Language emerges as the primary vehicle for the process. It's not merely a communication tool, but a dynamic system that shapes our perceptions. The words we use, the metaphors we employ, the narratives we construct fundamentally influence how we understand ourselves and our social world. The social constructionist lens also reveals the power dynamics that remains inherent in the knowledge production. Dominant social group possesses a remarkable capacity to define and maintain particular interpretations of reality. Through institutions like media, education, legal systems, certain narratives gain prominence while alternative perspectives are often marginalized or silenced. This process of narrative control is subtle yet profound. It operates not through overt force but through the seemingly neutral mechanisms of cultural transmission. Individuals internalize these narratives so deeply that they begin to perceive them as natural and inevitable. As individuals absorb societal narratives, external social structures become deeply personal experiences. Our identities, beliefs, and even our sense of self are fundamentally shaped by the cultural context that we inhabit. Understanding reality as a social construction does not diminish its significance. Instead, it empowers us to recognize our collective role in creating and transforming social worlds. It suggests that change is possible, that our current realities are not fixed, and that we have the potential to reimagine and reconstruct our social landscape. This perspective invites us to become more critically aware of the narratives we absorb, the institutions we participate in, and the meanings that we create in our everyday life. By recognizing the constructed nature of our social worlds, we open ourselves to greater empathy, understanding, and potential for transformation, which has been discussed in agency, the concept of agency. Unlike previous sociological approaches that viewed society as an external constraining force or individuals as entirely autonomous actors, Berger proposed a dynamic reciprocal process whereby humans are seen as both producers and products of social reality, continuously creating and being created by their social environments through ongoing interactions and meaning making processes. This dialectical understanding, central to Berger's theory of social construction, emphasizes the complex interplay between individual agency and social structures. Humans actively construct social reality through habitualization, institutionalization, and internalization, the processes that transforms repeated social interactions into taken for granted patterns of behavior and understanding. Social institutions emerge not as fixed, immutable entities, but as ongoing human productions that gain stability through continuous social reproduction. The concept of externalization becomes crucial in this framework, highlighting how individuals project meaning onto the world through their actions, language, and symbolic interactions. These externalized meanings then become objectified, appearing to exist independently of individual consciousness, yet remaining fundamentally rooted in human creativity. Social structures, therefore, are neither purely deterministic constraints nor completely malleable constructs, but negotiated realities continuously shaped by human interpretation and interaction. This perspective challenges both structural functionalist and purely individualistic approaches, offering a nuanced understanding of social dynamics that recognizes human beings as active making meaning makers while acknowledging the constraining and enabling aspects of social institutions. His approach reveals society as a complex, dynamic one where individuals and social structures are perpetually engaged and transformed into a dialogue. The social construction perspective is often a revolutionary way of understanding how we sense our experiences not as isolated individuals but as interconnected participants in a collective meaning making process. Thus, understanding human interaction becomes central to the understanding of the concept of social construction of reality. At the core of this approach reveals that our understanding of reality is fundamentally social. Every aspect of our lived experience, from personal identity to cultural norms, from professional roles to emotional interpretations, emerges through our interactions and shared communications. Our interactions serve as the primary mechanism for constructing reality. Every conversation becomes a moment of potential world building. When we communicate, we are not just exchanging information, we are negotiating meanings, reinforcing or challenging existing understanding, and collectively creating our social world. Now, by understanding that our reality is a collaborative creation, we transform from passive recipients of meaning to active creators of our social world, showing our agency. We recognize that while we are influenced by our social contexts, we are not entirely determined by them. The social construction perspective does not offer a theoretical insight, it provides a powerful tool for personal and collective transformation. It reminds us that our social world is not a fixed landscape, but a dynamic terrain that we continuously create, negotiate, reshape through our interactions. Berger has explained human interaction with the help of the dialectical model that involves three processes: externalization, objectivation, and internalization. The first stage of Berger's directive model is represented as externalization, which represents the initial moment wherein human beings actively produce social and cultural environments through their purposeful actions and interactions. Humans are not passive recipients of social reality, but active creators who transform their subjective experiences, thoughts, and intentions into tangible shared manifestations. This process occurs through multiple channels, while language serves as a primary vehicle for expressing internal conceptualizations. Institutions, practices, and cultural artifacts become concrete expressions of human creativity here. Through externalization, individuals project their inner worlds outward, creating recognizable social structures that extend beyond individual consciousness. This process is inherently collaborative, involving continuous interactions that shape collective understandings. Whether through artistic expressions, social conventions, or institutional frameworks, humans continuously cooperate and negotiate the shared meanings. The second step in the dynamic dialectical model proposed by Berger comes the objectivation, which marks a fascinating transformation where externalized human productions seemingly acquire an autonomous existence. Social constructs ranging from economic systems and legal frameworks to educational institutions and cultural norms begin to appear as objective, external realities independent of their original creators. This process creates an illusion of naturalness and inevitably obscuring the fundamental origin of the structures that gives birth to it. Objectivation enables the emergence of shared worldviews that appear stable and unquestionable. Economic systems seem like immutable laws, cultural practices appear as timeless traditions, and institutional hierarchies are experienced as inherent rather than constructed. They lose their constructed meaning. It appears to be structured. This stage is crucial in understanding how human created structures gain a sense of permanence and authority. The final stage is internalization or in the dialectical model given by Berger. It completes the dialectical cycle describing how individuals reabsorb, reintegrate these objectivated social worlds into their subjective consciousness. Through sophisticated socialization process, people learn, interpret, personally embody external social structures, transforming them into deeply internalized understanding, beliefs, and behaviors. This process explains the remarkable continuity of social patterns, and individuals do not merely learn these social norms, they actively internalize them, making these external constructs fundamental to their personal identity and worldview that they possess. Social expectations, behavioral norms, and collective interpretations become so deeply intertwined that they feel natural and self evident. Now, knowledge and power dynamics. These are very inherent and provide deep insights into Berger's construction of reality. Berger's analysis extends beyond describing social construction mechanism, critically examining power of dynamics which is inherent in knowledge production. He demonstrates how dominant social groups establish and maintain their interpretations of reality as authoritative and legitimate. Institutions like religion, education, media play crucial roles in naturalizing specific worldviews, rendering them seemingly objective and beyond questioning. Now, the theoretical implications and scholarly contributions. By emphasizing human agency and active role of individuals in constructing social realities, Berger fundamentally challenged deterministic sociological approaches. His work opened new avenues of understanding social change, highlighting how societies are continuously negotiated and reimagined through human interactions rather than being governed by immutable structural laws. Transcending of traditional sociological boundaries has influenced disciplines such as anthropology, psychology, philosophy, and cultural studies. His approach provided a sophisticated mechanism for understanding how cultural meanings are generated, transmitted, transformed across different social contexts. The formation of individual identities and social norms is deeply intertwined with social constructs, which serve as the framework through which people interpret their experiences and behaviors. Established norms create expectations for individuals, leading to conform to shared beliefs that define what is considered acceptable and what is considered to be desirable within their communities. Every theory is not outside of any critical apprehension. So does the concept of social construction of reality. While Berger's theoretical framework revolutionized sociological understanding, it has been subjected to rigorous academic scrutiny that reveals both its strength and potential limits. The primary critic centers on the theory's apparent overemphasis on individual agency at the potential expense of structural determinants that profoundly shape social realities. Critics argue that Berger's model presents an overly voluntaristic view of social construction, potentially overstating the powerful constraints imposed by economic systems, historical trajectories, and entrenched power strategies. Material conditions such as economic inequality, systemic oppression, and institutional hierarchies create fundamental boundaries within which individual operates in their agency. These structural forces can significantly limit or predetermine the possibilities for social construction, rendering individual actions less autonomous than Berger's frameworks might seem from outside. The methodological challenges inherent in Berger's dialectical model are particularly very complex. Researchers face significant obstacles in developing research methodologies capable of capturing the intricate interactions between individual consciousness and broader social structures. Traditional social science approaches often struggle to simultaneously analyze micro level interactions and macro level social dynamics, creating a fundamental epistemological challenge. Sophisticated research methodologies are required to unpack the nuanced process of social construction, and this demands interdisciplinary approach that should be developed within the methodological arena. The demands that the interdisciplinary approach can offer is that trace individual actions with their relationship to broader social structures, to examine how personal experiences are shaped by historical and economic context, to analyze the recursive relationship between individual agency and systemic constraints, to develop analytical frameworks that can capture the dynamic, fluid nature of social reality. The emerging methodological innovations, including multi-level analysis, longitudinal studies, and comparative research designs, have begun to address these challenges. Researchers increasingly recognize the need for complex, nuanced approaches that can simultaneously account for individual creativity and structural limitations. The critic does not diminish Berger's fundamental contribution, but instead invites a more sophisticated understanding of social construction. It calls for a refined theoretical approach that acknowledges both the creative potential of human agency and profound influence of material and historical conditions in shaping the social realities. These methodological and theoretical challenges underscore the complexity of understanding how societies generate, maintain, and transform their collective experiences, a process far more intricate than a linear or deterministic models can capture. This has to be addressed methodologically while incorporating any concept from social construction of reality. Nevertheless, Berger's concept of social construction of reality is very pertinent, significant, and has wide application in present day context as per the academia or the applications are concerned. The profound significance of Berger's work becomes increasingly apparent in today's complex interconnected world. His emphasis on human agency fundamentally challenged deterministic sociological approaches, offering a dynamic understanding of social change by highlighting how societies are continuously negotiated and reimagined through human interactions. Berger provided a revolutionary perspective that transcends traditional disciplinary boundaries existed in sociological knowledge. The digital age offers particularly rich terrain for exploring Berger's theories. Social media platforms and online communities demonstrate the ongoing process of reality construction. Individuals create digital personas, negotiate identities, and create shared narratives that exemplify the dialectical process explained by Berger. While being revolutionary, Berger's theory is not without any scholarly critique. Some research argue that it potentially underemphasizes the structured concerns that we have already discussed earlier. Nevertheless, Berger's work remains a cornerstone in understanding how human beings actively create, maintain, transform, and recreate social realities using their agency through continuous dynamic interactions. In the next slide, I have provided a concept contour of the concepts which I have been discussed here, and it gives a complete picture of the concept explained in the talk that and has been presented in a diagrammatically for the ease of the learners to understand the concept. The complete process of externalization, objectivation, and internalization works in a vicious circle, making it as a continuous dynamic process that is carried throughout one's life. It's never-ending one. By here, I end my academic lecture, and definitely, like every academic lecture, this lecture has a wide and varied outcome. The learners will be able to critically examine how power dynamics establish authoritative interpretations of a reality. They will be able to recognize human agency as the primary driver of social dynamics. The learners will be enabled to apply a cross-disciplinary lens to analyze how digital technologies mediate and reshape contemporary social reality construction. The learners will be able to explore the intricate relationship between individual identities and societal normative structures. At the end of the lecture, it is time to reciprocate with the learners. And coming to end of this talk, and to make sure that it went productive and fruitful for the learners, there are some questions and activities for the students to engage with. I have given 5 questions for the students to answer so that they can understand whether they have grasped the concept of social construction of reality or not. The first question is, how do you think Berger challenged the traditional sociological perspectives? What are the 3 key stages in Berger's social construction process? How do power dynamics interact with social construction? How does the digital age demonstrate social construction? And what are the potential limitations of Berger's theory? But along with the questions, one activity to properly engage the learners with the so that they can understand that whether they could connect with the concept or not, one activity has been given where they need to choose particular practice or belief from their life, everyday life experiences. That could be anything. And this could be a cultural tradition, a social norm, or a personal habit. And they have to write detailed reflection of that, and they should address where the practice came from, what are the practices, how did it connect with your personal experiences, and how they have externalized, objectivated, and internalized such beliefs and experiences in their everyday lives, and how have they reflected to such experiences in their lifetime that evolved over time. And they need to discuss how power dynamics and institutional influences might have shaped this particular social construction that they are living with. These activities will help the learners to understand the concept more deeply and more in an insightful manner. And I have provided the references from where the talk has been deeply informed with. And I would like to acknowledge that all the pictures that have been used in the powerful presentations to make PowerPoint presentations to make it more interactive, more attractive for the learners, giving more audio visuals, all have been taken from Google with Creative Commons license. Berger's concept of the social construction of reality has been groundbreaking theory in sociology that questioned, challenged the traditional sociological epistemologies. Emerging methodological innovations, including multi-level analysis, longitudinal studies, and comparative research designs, have begun to address the challenges that the theory may come across.
In this slide, I have tried to provide a complete picture of the talk that has been discussed throughout. The social construction of reality has been broken down into a dialectical model and has been divided into 3 continuous concepts by Berger, naming them externalization, objectivation, and internalization. The first step in this dialectical model of interaction that individual emotions, their expressions outwardly. That is, they actively create social walls. And when they actively create their social walls, they project their experiences outwards. That is why it is called externalization. Once their projection towards the outer world is complete, they started to objectify, that is solidification of the social constructs. Once they solidify the social constructs, which happen to language, which may happen to cultural artifacts, or may happen to various other cultural solidifications, the process of internalization begins. The process of internalization starts with various agents of socialization where they absorb social realities. And once this internalization process is reached, individuals begin to develop agency among themselves and they begin to recreate the social world that they experience as structures. So this moves as a dynamic, vicious and continuous cycle. So once this internalization process is reached, and the individuals have developed their agency, they again start to perceive the world through externalization. So this process of externalization, objectivation and internalization continuously move in a cyclical manner in a individual's life.
So, in this slide, we provide a concept contour of the whole talk that has been discussed here. Berger's social construction of reality revolves around a dialectical model of human interaction that involves and revolves around three cyclical processes. The first one is externalization, the second one is objectivation, and the third one is internalization, the details of which have already been discussed in the productive content of the talk. For the ease of the learners, I have made this concept contour of the whole productive talk so that the whole concept of the social construction of reality becomes handy for the learners to start with. So, first of all, the dynamic interaction, the dialectical model of interaction between human and the society, the social reality, starts with the process of externalization, by which individuals actively create the social world. They move or project their expressions, emotion, understanding outwardly. And after this process is completed, they move towards objectivation. And this happens with a very gradual terms in a very seemingly manner, seamlessly. And in the objectivation procedure, the social constructs are made solidified, made crystallized into, for say example, say cultural artifacts, for say language, for say shared cultural meanings. And once this process is complete, the individuals move towards internalization, and the majority of this happens through various process of socialization, where individuals internalize the values, notions of the society. They absorb the social realities as they are. But after internalization, again, since we have already said that it's a dialectical model, individual simultaneously internalize and simultaneously they externalize. That is, they respond, they react, they transform, have the capacity to show or perform their agency. And again, we move back to externalization. So, this externalization, objectivation, and internalization is a cyclical, dynamic, continuous, vicious circle that individuals carry away throughout their life whenever they interact under any shared cultural context. Thanks.